I'm here today to talk about functional behavioral assessments, behavioral intervention plans, and positive behavior supports. These are services provided to children with disabilities in school who have behavioral issues that impede their ability to progress in their education. So what that means is if a child has a disability-related behavioral problem, they can get support services at school to help them address that problem so it doesn't get in the way of their learning. It's important to keep in mind that in Maine, special education has two purposes. It has the purpose of providing help with academics, but it also has a purpose of helping children get ready to enter the community and the world of work. So one of the things that special education is supposed to address is a child's social, emotional, and behavioral needs. This is very clear in the regulations, and I'm going to take a moment and read the two definitions from the regulations that are important for parents to know about. And then after that, I'm going to talk about how you can get these services for your child and under what circumstances and who needs to help with that process. So first, it's important to know that the regulations define a functional behavioral assessment as a school-based process used by the IEP team if the child is eligible for special ed, or the 504 team if the child is eligible for Section 504 services, which includes the parent, so you need to be part of this conversation, and is appropriate to the child to determine why a child engages in behaviors and how the behavior relates to the child's environment. The team includes the term includes direct assessments, indirect assessments, and data analysis designed to assist the team to identify and define the problem behavior in concrete terms, identify the contextual factors that contribute to the behavior, and formulate a hypothesis regarding the conditions under which the behavior occurs and the probable consequences. In other words, an FBA is an effort by the team, including experts if necessary, to figure out what purpose the behavior serves for the child so that you can figure out after that how to provide services to meet that child's needs some other way. Oftentimes when I'm at IEP meetings, if a child has particularly challenging behaviors, the team may need more help to figure out exactly what the function of that behavior is for the child. And I think it's perfectly appropriate for a parent in an IEP meeting to say, the team here doesn't know the answer to the question as to why my son or daughter does this thing. And so we need to go outside and get some expert help to help us figure that out. And I just want to make sure that parents know that they have a right to ask for additional assistance if the team really can't figure out the function of the behavior. The next piece that I want to talk about is positive reinforcement interventions and supports. That's a new term. They used to be positive behavioral interventions and supports, in case you're used to those terms. Positive reinforcement interventions and supports mean the use of positive techniques designed to assist a child to acquire educationally and socially appropriate behaviors and reduce patterns of dangerous, destructive, disruptive, or defiant behaviors. Positive reinforcement strategies may be determined by the IEP team and may be based on the results of the FBA defined above. So what that means is you take the information from the functional behavioral assessment about why the kid is doing what they're doing, and then to formulate a plan to help the child learn more socially appropriate behaviors. For example, if a child is getting into trouble in class because he doesn't like to do the work, is not comfortable doing the work, and the work is not at his level, it's easy to get in trouble and go down to the principal's office to avoid doing work. So that would be a behavior that you would want to change. Once you determine that the purpose of the behavior for the child was to get out of work that he couldn't do and was embarrassed to admit he couldn't do, then we could put together a plan to help provide the child support in those academic areas so he doesn't have that experience. So that would be an example of the use of an FBA and positive reinforcement interventions and supports. So how are children eligible for these services? If your child has a 504 plan, student assistant program, an RTI plan, or an IEP, you can request positive reinforcement interventions and supports. In other words, you can ask for a behavior plan. And you should make sure that the behavior plan has both components, both the FBA part and the socially appropriate programming part. So you're both looking at why the kid does what they do and how to change that behavior. Also, FBAs and BIPs must be provided in certain discipline situations. If a child is out of school for 10 days or more and they have an IEP or a 504 plan, a child with a disability who is removed from the placement must receive, as appropriate, an FBA and behavioral intervention services and modifications designed to address the behavior so it does not recur. So whatever it was that the child did that resulted in a 10-day suspension must be addressed so that the child learns the behaviors and so they don't repeat them and have to be suspended again. In addition, a behavioral intervention plan must be provided anytime it is necessary for a child to achieve FAPE. In other words, for a child to address their academic and social emotional needs at school. So if a child is eligible for special education and they have behavioral needs, even if their academics are fine, they may still qualify for a behavioral intervention plan. And the best way to start that process is by discussing it at an IEP meeting or 504 meeting. In addition, keep in mind that the student's IEP or 504 plan should have behavioral goals and objectives that relate to the behavior plan. A student should never have a behavior plan that is not connected in some way to their goals and objectives, because otherwise there's no connection between those two documents. In addition, if a student is being disciplined frequently or for behaviors he or she can't seem to control, or a student is being restrained or secluded at school, that is a very appropriate time for a parent to ask for a discussion of behavior planning at the IEP meeting. And it doesn't have to just be for aggressive acting out behaviors. A child could get a behavior plan that addresses or provides positive supports if they're acting in, not just if they're acting out. For a very common example would be tardiness or poor attendance, where a child's school program is not appropriate for them and they are not attending school. That's an appropriate time for the team to sit down and look at the behavior of tardiness or poor attendance and figure out what its purpose is. So wrapping up, if a child has a behavioral symptom related to their disability that's preventing them from progressing academically or social emotionally in school, that's an appropriate time for the team to discuss a functional behavioral assessment and a behavioral intervention plan for that student.